Hey everybody, Michael Snyder here, California Weather Watch. Today's June 28th, and right now we're looking at the visible satellite imagery. You can see the marine there moving down the coastline here. You can already see it retreating here as we go through the morning hours for much of the area, but the desert areas and the valley already baking in the sunshine here, and it's just going to get worse here, folks, as we go towards the weekend. The big weather story here is the heat that is incoming for the desert Southwest, Nevada, and California. We'll take a look at those details, and also today you got this system moving across Nevada. Some strong thunderstorms are possible here across the region and the Sierra Nevada here as well. We'll look at those details also. This is taking a closer look at some of the eddies in the marine layer moving down the coastline. Always nice to watch this in the GOES 18 satellite imagery. Kind of mesmerizing there as you can see the retreat of that marine layer across some of the Southern California areas. CFS El Nino forecast still headed towards that strong El Nino. We're on the cusp of moving into moderate conditions as we speak. Last update here was today, June 28th. This is the heat coming this weekend. Excessive heat watch already in effect. Heat advisory for some of the coastal ranges here as well. And this is going to go for much of the area. This is Sacramento calling for the thunderstorm potential across the Sierra Nevada on in through Nevada. Most likely time frame, of course, afternoon and evening hours. You guys know the drill. Lightning, brief, heavy rain, small hail, and gusty winds are the threats. Hot weekend ahead coming up here. Look at Las Vegas. First 100-degree day probably tomorrow, then probably quickly into the 110-degree range as we go on in through Sunday. And look at Death Valley. Could get into the 120s by the weekend. Lake Havasu warming up nicely here as well. I wouldn't really call that warm. That's downright roasting hot. This is the flood watch here. Eastern Sierra slopes and the Owens Valley are going to be melting some of that snowfall across the higher terrain of the Sierra Nevada here all the way through the 4th of July. Watch out for those fast-flowing cold waterways out there. And this is significant warm-up through this weekend. Phoenix, Arizona. Look at these temperatures here. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 113. Look at Blythe out there as well. Just some ridiculous temperatures incoming. It is the hottest time of the year usually for Arizona before the monsoon starts to settle in. And this is high temperature Sunday. Look at Palm Springs. Ridiculous. 117 versus San Diego 76. So if you want to get somewhere where you can beat the heat, get to those coastlines there. As you can see, these ridiculous temperatures setting up here across the deserts. This is your warning. Heads up for that. This is Phoenix, and you can see the ensemble agreement here with all 50 European runs here showing these temperatures getting into the 1 teens here as you go on in through the July 3rd time frame would be here. So 4th of July likely to be downright hot there for Phoenix and much of the desert Southwest, including California. Now this is looking at 500 potential height here coming up here. Geopotential height, I should say, and 850 temperature is the color coding. So you can kind of see the heat ridge there over Texas as we speak. You can kind of see the general troughing here on the west coast, but watch what happens. We start to build this ridge here across much of the west coast there, and we really start to kick these temperatures up. And you can see now we're moving into July 3rd here. And now let's go ahead and go to July 4th and stop there. And you can clearly see this pretty big heat dome over the desert Southwest. So very warm 4th of July coming up here, folks. And this is looking at 2-meter temperature anomaly. The troughing keeping things suppressed a little bit here. But as we just roll through the next few days, you can clearly see those being replaced by these above average temperature anomalies here on last night's European run. This is 100-meter wind speed. And you can imagine we got pretty cold water here off the Pacific Ocean, which is pretty typical for this time of year. It's even a little bit chillier than normal. But as you warm up the interior and you've got this cold ocean water here, you cast that gradient. That's why the wind is so persistent out of the north and northwest all the way down the California coastline. And as we go through here during the daytime and afternoon and evening hours, you can see there isn't much let up to a lot of this wind here as we just continue on in through the 90-hour period there. So kind of a persistent feature here of summers across the state of California, that northwest wind off the coastline. And look at some of those water temperatures offshore of San Francisco there. You can see low 50s there versus, you got lower and mid 60s here down through Southern California. So big difference in water temperature here as you go up the coastline. You get this upwelling here. This very cold water from beneath really likes to hang out here across much of Central California. You can see the water being much warmer out here over the Pacific and Southern California, as I mentioned. Now, this is looking at composite reflectivity, the NAM3KM. High resolution model. Look as we go through the day today, thunderstorms popping off on the Sierra Nevada, and then look at some of these strong storms potentially across portions of Nevada here as well, even including some places like Tonopah, Nevada. They're pretty rare to get precipitation really any time of year across some of these areas in Nevada. But then as we go on into Thursday, you can see some of this activity starting to kick off extreme eastern Nevada here, off into Utah, Colorado, Wyoming out there, and some of New Mexico. But we're really going to dry out here across much of the southwest here as we go through the extended forecast. More on that here in a moment. This is looking at the trough kind of hanging out here, 500 millibar temperatures. You can see relatively chilly air aloft there, and you can look at that and just see this trough kind of move out of the area here and say bye-bye to much of the desert southwest, allowing this ridge to build here. That's what's really going to bring the warm up here as we move towards the weekend. This is looking at 6-hour 2-meter temperature here. So this is for today. This would be for Thursday. You can see the warm-up really occurring all the way up into the Northern Valley reaches here. And Saturday, look at this. I mean, you're talking about temperatures well up towards 110 for some areas of the valley. Get on into Saturday here. Look at the deserts just baking. Death Valley probably getting towards 120 plus by this time. So yeah, the heat is definitely coming, folks, and you can clearly see it. Now, the immediate coastline is always the exception here. As you can see, much chillier temperatures there, but you don't have to go far to start getting 100 plus degree temperatures. Now, this is looking at total precipitation. We're just going to fly through this here and get out to 200 hours there, and you can see just some of that thunderstorm activity initially across the Sierra Nevada and Nevada here. Look at nothing for Arizona through 200 hours. The GFS kind of hinting at some monsoonal moisture starting to return as we go 300 plus hours out, but that's way out there. But eventually the monsoon will make an appearance here across some of the desert southwest, but still not much of a signal just yet. This is looking out 16 days and just some precipitation starting to approach some of the southern zones here. This is looking at the European. This goes out 10 days here and no sign of it across Arizona and just that thunderstorm activity initially across the Sierra Nevada here. But much of the desert, Southern California, the coastal areas, not much precipitation expected here for the next 10 days. This is 6 to 10 day temperature probability outlook. This is 6 to 10 day precipitation probability, and you can see no sign of the monsoon just yet here, but that'll change eventually. And drought monitor here, you can see California doing quite well, especially compared to last year. Probably sound like a broken record. I seem to mention that every day. This is looking at the sea surface temperature anomalies. I know some people like to see this map, so just showing it for anybody who hasn't seen this over the last few days. But you can see the past La Nina here now in our rearview mirror, and we are warming up across the equatorial Pacific here. And you can see the very warm water banked up against South America there, and now we are on the cusp of moving into moderate El Nino conditions here. You can clearly see the big difference in the temperature changes across the equatorial Pacific as we went through early March here, and now we're into, we're getting towards mid-June, and we're definitely headed towards an El Nino here, folks. So anyway, yeah, we'll continue to watch this heat and just see how much we're going to warm up here. We'll take a more detailed look tomorrow and kind of see what temperatures we can expect, but it looks like high likelihood of a pretty good heat wave coming across much of the region here coming up. So anyway, hope you guys are liking these videos here. Click like and subscribe. We'll do this again tomorrow, and I'll talk to you guys then.